Okay, good morning. We're going to get started. We've got a couple of members yet to show, but we have more than a quorum, so we'll get started so we can be finished and ready for the next meeting. The first item on our agenda is approval of the minutes. So, October 14th meeting, I have a motion by Mayor Voss and a second by Mayor Morrison. Please cast your votes. Okay, voting is closed, and that's approved unanimously. Do we have any requests for public comment? I don't have any here. Okay. And we'll move on. We have a consent calendar, legislative status reports. This is for information only. We're not going to have a presentation on this today. We'll move on then to the regular reports, and the first is the review of the draft board agendas for the upcoming November 18th meeting, and an update on the December 2nd meeting.
Right. Okay, so for your November 18th board business meeting, we have approval of the meeting minutes, followed by public comments, communications, member comments, and item 3 is actions for policy advisory committee, or your standards. On consent, we have listed here item 4, approval of proposed solicitations and contract awards. We don't actually anticipate any that month, so this will come off. Item 5 is overview of developments in the financial markets and quarterly finance report. So that is a standard quarterly report. Item 6 also a standard quarterly report on transportation projects. And 7 and 8 are your standard report on meetings and events attended on behalf of SANDAG, and report summarizing delegated actions taken by the executive director. Moving to item 9, under chair's report, it would be the election of the board officers for 2017. So we'll be holding that election at that time. Under reports, item 10, we initially had anticipated having another hearing of necessity for the Mid-Coast project. However, we will be moving that one to December, to the December board meeting. So this one will not occur. We're going to consolidate a number of those and bring them in December. We do have some various items coming up from the Transportation Committee and Regional Planning Committee. So item 11 is the proposed program budget amendment for the I-5 Boyd Drive improvements. That's the Transportation Committee is actually hearing that at 10 o'clock this morning. The proposal to add funding, shop funding for the project. Item 12 is your Transnet Environmental Mitigation Program Land Management Grant Program recommended awards. Both Regional Planning and Transportation have heard that, and we have recommendations for the board to approve those. Item 13 is also coming up from Regional Planning. It's the Regional Shoreline Monitoring Program. The committee is recommending that continue the monitoring program for the next 5 years. It's all funded by contributions from the coastal states. And then we actually
That's monitoring, right?
That's monitoring. It's not any capital improvement.
So the same came in and the same went out. That's it. Okay.
And then we were proposing to add a few items to this meeting. One is another proposed budget amendment. Again, the Transportation Committee will be hearing that at 10 o'clock today. It's about $3 million from MTS to fully fund the construction of the overhead contact system insulator and catch cable replacement project.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, it's basically the catenary wires.
Yeah, it's actually the new insulators, and they have the feature that if the wire somehow would have fallen in something that catches it too. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Only an architect can understand.
It's more than you'd ever want to know.
And then we proposed actually a couple closed sessions. One is a closed session to bring the board up on the Claremont Drive Station project related to Mid-Coast. And the second one is we did receive a claim on one of our completed projects, this one in the Earmark Phase 1 double shot project. We'd like to bring those closed sessions on November 18th.
Okay.
If there's no questions. And for December 2nd, the board policy meeting, we don't have any items scheduled right now, but we'd like to hold it open for at least the next week or so. We did submit this week the application to TIFIA, the TIFIA office, for the Mid-Coast project. It's basically the loan agreement. And if it's processed, expeditiously.
We might need a meeting.
We might need a meeting in December. If not,
hold it on your calendar for the next week or so.
That's it.
Okay. That's December 2nd.
Right.
Okay. Good.
Got a question?
We need a question, right?
One more thing. I forgot. On consent, we also need to bring bring back the, your board policy advisory advice to the meeting calendar for 2017. We did bring that, we approved it last month, and we realized we scheduled some meetings on observed Veterans Day,
Yeah.
holiday, so we'd like to bring that back as well.
Yeah, I've got a question on the, you're electing a new board of officers before all of the new people come on. So is that normal? Because we're losing a lot of, members, including, Mary and Todd and others. And it just doesn't seem appropriate to me to have the old board elect the incoming board. And so, is that normal to do that? I can't remember.
The board design laws allow basically elections to occur in or around December.
Okay, so this is November 17th.
Yes, it's in or around December, so it could be November, December, January timeframe.
Okay, well, it could also be in December after we know who's elected, right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't know, does anyone else have any thoughts on that? I mean, at the city, we don't elect our new board president, until the new people come in.
Well, I feel that's a good point, but I think we don't expect any new board member to be in the executive committee or part of the officers, because you need about 25 years to understand Sandag.
No, I'm not talking about
Properly.
being on the board.
talking about
Voting.
participating in the election.
Right,
Yep.
but I think the risk is somebody might be not elected, and not be in the.
I think it's less about, if I can jump in, less about somebody not being elected,
Right.
as much as the people who are going to comprise the board being able to have a voice about
Right.
who the leadership is. I think it's a fair question. We're the same way in Poway. We wait until after the election.
So how do you do it in?
No, we do it after the election, but
After
we
the
know,
election.
November 8th, we know who is elected and who is not, so.
Is there any compelling reason to do it end of November as opposed to later in December?
No compelling reason other than, we're just trying to get all the stuff scheduled at the end of the year, the schedules shift. And you elect these for a year, right? So then next year you get to review those, so.
Yeah, I'd rather see it wait until December, but that's just me. It's likely that we're only going to have one meeting in December, and that may be a critical meeting, which was one of the issues that we were doing.
I would just observe that we have 3 applicants for 3 positions. And
I think
Well, so then there's not a problem with moving it to December.
we're leaving it where it is.
Yeah, and I don't think any of the three, none of the 3 are up for election this year. So that's not a situation as far as, election in their jurisdictions.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd say move it to December. It's either going to be quick or whatever.
So the new board member who are elected in November, they would be joining the board in December. They would be present at the board meeting in December, is that?
Well, a lot of times we don't, that's
So-
why it's in or around December. Every city, so they get elected, they get sworn in at different times. That's always why at the end of the year, even on the committee assignments, we've given ourselves some time, because sometimes we don't know in December, so there's a new election. The cities then.
When's your last board meeting in December?
16th?
16th, and like in our city, we normally don't make our committee selections till the first meeting in January. So,
Yeah,
I think every city's different on that.
not all cities, some cities we do have new board members, and by the December board meeting, other times we don't. I'd say a few of them, a large chunk of them also appoint in January.
Okay, well, I would still rather have it a little later.
And I think the one other thing, I understand what you're saying as far as getting everyone in participation, but you've got people, that's going to, for many you know, and this time we are gonna have a little bit more of a turnover than probably we've had, simply because of people leaving, not necessarily because of election. But it's
Yeah,
a, but the deal is, a lot of those people that would be, might be replacing them, that'd be their very first meeting at Sandag.
Right.
So, all of a sudden, they are trying to comprehend what Sandag is, what it does, and how, and who to put in leadership into it. That doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense either.
Well, we've got 3 brand-new council members deciding who the council president will be.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah, all of our systems are flawed.
Just doesn't.
My preference would be to do it in November.
I beg your pardon?
I said my preference would be to do it in November.
Or even January, when people move. Okay. I understand your preference.
Okay. Are we looking for approval on that?
Well, we need to approve.
The agenda would,
Right,
the agenda would include that item.
Move approval of the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Cast your votes. Voting is closed, and that's approved unanimously. Okay, we'll move on to the proposed FY 2017 program budget amendments. Tim's going to give us, Watson's going to give us staff report.
Yes, good morning. So the results of the annual statewide competitive grant process are in, and Sandag has been awarded 2 new Caltrans planning grants. The announcement came after both Caltrans and the board approved the program budget, so we need to do these 2 amendments in order to accept these new grant funds that total $483,949. So the first new grant entails researching and developing regional and interregional management strategies for park and ride facilities. Key objectives include identifying best practices from around the country, development of a demand management and siting tool to evaluate and prioritize the best sites to accommodate existing and future services, and present final recommendations for a phased implementation of management strategies. The other successful grant proposal will develop a consistent approach for integrating transportation demand management and transportation system management into the development review and traffic impact analysis process. The resulting TDM and TSM traffic impact analysis toolbox will provide improved methodology for local and private agencies for use in evaluating these key components into future development impact scenarios. Matching funds of approximately $121,000, including TDA in an amount of about $85,000, are proposed over the next 2 years to leverage these grants and meet the local match requirements. In summary, the Executive Committee is asked to approve amendments to the FY 2017 program budgets to 1, create new overall work program project numbers 33217 and 33309, accept $288,000 and $195,949 in Caltrans Federal Highway Administration Strategic Partnership Grant Awards, and authorize $120,987 in matching Transportation Development Act funds in substantially the same form as shown in attachments 1 and 2. In order to develop the interregional park and ride strategy and the transportation demand management and transportation system management, traffic analysis, traffic impact analysis toolbox. That concludes my remarks, and we're open for any questions.
Thank you, Tim. Todd, excuse me.
Thank you.
Maria.
Thank you, Chairman Roberts. I feel like we've done a transportation demand management toolbox before. Am I remembering that wrong, or maybe did I remember in a vote to authorize pursuing this funding? Or I just felt like we had a presentation at some point in transportation on this actual issue.
I remember bringing this back, and when we applied for the grants, saying we were going to apply for these grants, and always trying to improve that toolbox and look at what others are doing and figure out any better ways.
So we have a toolbox that this augments or improves upon, or?
I think the toolbox we brought, transportation committee was a park management toolbox.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, and there's overlap between
Right,
those two. Okay.
TDM and TSM.
And then who does, both of these are relevant to, well, certainly the city of San Diego. Who would actually at Sandag perform this work? You're the lucky one.
Our experts in the audience.
TMTSM, tracking and analysis toolbox project management, and April on as the lead project manager for the regional enterprise strategy.
Yeah, April works in our transit planning section. One of the things about the park and ride is that, you know, carpooling and transit are both very important. And sometimes these park and rides, there can be some conflicts between the two. You know, where we have a lot of carpoolers parking there, and then you know the transit riders. So we're trying to figure out some strategies to deal with that and make sure that we're taking care of all of those, which are very important for the region. So we've had some issues. Gives us a chance, and it'll also give us a chance to work with some folks up in Riverside County on the I-15 corridor to reconnect with them. So we think it's a good opportunity for us.
And I assume this includes some interaction with City of San Diego Traffic Engineering Planning Department. We need the help.
Typically work through your
Planning director.
planning directors, and we also work with your public works directors too, so that's where we try to intersect this.
I'd move approval.
Okay. There's a motion, second. So it's not deja vu again?
It is, well,
Okay.
parking management toolbox. I got it.
Discussion votes. Voting is closed. And that's approved unanimously. And we'll move on to item number 6.
Thank you.
The Service Bureau. Cheryl's going to give us a report.
Yes, please. Good morning. As you know, I provide the financial update of the Sandex Service Bureau to the Executive Committee a couple of times a year. Today's report is the year-end report for fiscal year 2016. The Service Bureau offers a wide range of customized data and reports to public and private organizations and individuals on a fee-for-service basis. The services are provided through Sandex, its Service Bureau, and also through its nonprofit benefit corporation, SourcePoint. One of our business goals is to generate revenue to help enhance the regional information system, which is Sandag's integrated system of data, computer hardware, software, and modeling, which provides the foundation of the work we do here at the agency. The Executive Committee established a regional information system enhancement fee over and above project costs for this purpose. Table 1, which I show beginning on page 26 of your tablet, illustrates the fiscal year 2016 financial status. The table shows that the Service Bureau had revenues of $559,528 from projects that began this fiscal year were carried over from previous fiscal years. Expenses related to performing these projects were $509,352, meaning that revenues exceeded expenses by $50,176, or 9.9%. Non-recoverable costs related to management and business development are covered by these revenues as well. When those costs are taken into account, revenues exceeded expenses by $41,874, or 8.1%. Our annual revenue the past few years has averaged about $477,000 a year. This year's revenue is $559,000, so we actually generated more revenue than our recent average, so this is good news. We worked on about 70 projects during the fiscal year, and they're grouped by major category in Table 1. The largest revenue-generating category is the feasibility studies and the comprehensive plans. Service Bureau wrapped up a study that explored the feasibility of a bicycle pedestrian tube on the San Diego Coronado Bridge, and another that explored a freeway cap on State Route 94. In addition, staff began work with the City of Carlsbad on a new project to develop a parking study for the village, barrio, and beach area. The next largest category is the transportation modeling. More than 80% of the Service Bureau projects are concentrated in this category. It's really been a mainstay for the Service Bureau for many years. In addition to a number of smaller requests for estimating traffic impacts due to development, Service Bureau is also working on some larger projects to help jurisdictions with community and general plan updates. The other services category comes next. This category includes services for member agencies that do not fit into the main Service Bureau categories. It includes a pilot project between the California Coastal Commission and Carlsbad for early coordination and expedited review on projects that fall into Coastal Commission's jurisdiction. The pilot officially began in January this year, and it's off to a good start. Lastly, the Service Bureau completed some short-term requests for customized demographic data, Geographic Information System, or GIS analyses, and some surveys. In particular, staff wrapped up a multi-year GIS project to develop a mapping application for the Cali-Baja financial mega region. Starting this fiscal year 17, we've received several requests for transportation modeling. And in addition, we began a new study to assist the city of Carlsbad in the development of a transportation demand management program. And we will continue to seek opportunities to partner with other agencies, research organizations, to continue to offer products and services that meet the needs of the community. This concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Cheryl, just quick, we get to a number like $40,000 net at the end of the fiscal year, but don't we have work that's continuing also? Is that, how do you account for that?
You're talking about projects that span more than one fiscal year?
That span into the next fiscal year.
Yeah, they're blended in there at this point, Supervisor.
So I'm wondering how accurate the 40,000 is.
It's only for those projects, the revenues are recorded only for, the revenue and earnings are only for that fiscal year. So even if the projects extend, we're only looking at the revenues earned during the fiscal year and the expenditures during the fiscal year.
Okay.
So it should be straight.
At the end, it's out of balance.
Yeah.
Cheryl, transportation or the transportation modeling is up. How do you anticipate that continuing, or what's your forecast for the future?
Yeah, transportation modeling has been a mainstay of the Service Bureau for many years, and we're always averaging around 20-35% return on the work that we do. The number of projects has actually been decreasing since inception, but it's because the nature of the work now is more working with the jurisdictions on longer term types of projects in the general plan updates, rather than we used to be kicking out a lot of quick, small development projects.
Thank you.
What you will see is the economy changes, those, at least the small projects go up and down. So if there's more development projects coming to your cities, those will come to get services here for those. So we'll see those go up or down, kind of depending on what's happening with the number of developments that are processing in your cities or through the county.
Just a comment. I appreciate the Service Bureau's work on the 94 freeway lid and to Berman. Thank you for the money to help make that so. My constituents, for my colleagues, and I maybe say this as someone who understands my last transportation meetings in about 30 minutes. This vision that we have for trying to get more park space in Golden Hill and Sherman Heights, communities that are built out. This would be a creative solution, one we've done before on I-15. My constituents brought this to me, being able to take this to Gary and to Lori to workshop it, refine it, determine its feasibility. Still a long ways off from happening. That's why I want to make you all aware of it and why it's important, and I think it's useful for our overall transportation network. But anyway, it wouldn't have been possible without the Service Bureau doing that work, and I think it was very well received by those communities. So thank you for the good work.
I drove in on Highway 94 yesterday. It's painful.
We'll take even more park space, whatever you
We
want
even
to,
have the top-
whatever.
The top layer of
Yeah,
how
just
many ever levels we end up with.
like it's never there.
I thought the plan was to close one of the lanes in each direction.
There
That's a
are
separate
people
project.
that- Okay. That's an item-ending comment. Okay, this is
plan.
information only. Thank you, Cheryl. We'll move on to the 2016 program budget and report. Tim's back up in the hot seat again.
Hello again. So I'm here today to summarize the results of the FY16 program budget that ended on June 30th. Program budget includes several components. The overall work program, or the OWP, focuses on regional mobility and sustainable planning and modeling. Our regional operations includes toll facilities, intelligent transportation systems, motorist aid, and automated regional justice information systems, or ARJIS activities. And the capital program includes the Transit Early Action Projects program and other regional capital improvements. And finally, we have the administrative budget. So overall, we delivered the vast majority of projects and work included in the amended budget. As shown in Table 1 of the report, the approved budget of $1 billion was amended down to $732 million with $555 million in actual expenditures. Highlights of the year are shown in the report. Just to touch on a few here, in OWP, which encompasses 4 of our areas of emphasis, starting with modeling and research, the Technical Services Group made a number of enhancements and updates to the transportation modeling system in areas such as travel to and from military bases, traffic signal phasing, intersection and lane configuration, as well as developing key components of the Space Corps modeling project. Things like additional zoning information and floor space information at the building level. As you just heard, the Sandex Service Bureau completed nearly 70 projects, providing customized data and analysis to public and private entities to help inform their decision-making. In sustainable development, we completed work on San Diego Forward, the regional plan, including the final environmental impact report and air quality conformity determination, as well as extensive public outreach activities. Staff responded to direction from the Board of Directors to refine funding priorities and develop an ordinance and expenditure plan for the Major Ballot Initiative coming up next week. We performed preliminary outreach and developed prototype locations as part of the development of San Diego County and Imperial Valley Regional Mobility Hub implementation strategy. In sustainable mobility, we advanced regional transportation demand management strategies and included the first regional van pool marketing campaign, which resulted in an increase of 50 van pools, supported local jurisdictions with TDM planning and policy development. We also launched next generation 511 travel information systems for the San Diego region, including updates of the 511 mobile app, which now provides real-time transit information. For external support and communication, we launched an interactive online Transnet story map, which highlights how $3.3 billion in Transnet funds has helped leverage more than $10 billion from other funding sources to complete more than 650 projects over the last quarter century. The story map won the Grand Showcase Award at the 2016 ESRI User Conference. We developed public outreach tools for Sandag websites such as sdforward.com, iCommuteSD.com, and we developed and enhanced several other Sandag websites, including 511sd.com and GoByBikeSD.com. In regional operations, we continued operations of I-15 express lanes, where the number of trips was 3% higher than the forecast budget, and actual revenue exceeded forecast revenue by 4%. Completed phase 1 of the I-15 express lanes education and awareness campaign, highlighting how carpool, van pool, rapid services, and fast track users can use this facility. We developed automated regional justice information system, or ARGIS enhancements, including real-time data updates through the reporting system, enhanced the GIS services, and that also included regional crime mapping dashboard, and we expanded the use of the graffiti tracking program. Also continued operation of I-15 Integrated Corridor Management System, which is now transitioned from a federal pilot project to an ongoing operation, and completed installation of roadside signs and guides to guide motorists to alternative routes and avoid delays due to major incidents. Capital program. We had preliminary construction of the Mid-Coast Trolley Extension Project, which began in FY 2016, particularly efforts to relocate overhead and underground utilities, make way for major construction of the trolley tracks and guidelines. Also negotiated $928 million guaranteed maximum price agreement with Mid-Coast Transit constructors. We completed a new 4-lane highway on State Route 11 from SR 125 to Enrico Fermi Drive, which opened to the public in early 2016. It provides more direct access from the Otay Mesa port of entry. The early work package for the North Coast Corridor I-5 Express Lanes project was advertised for construction in early 2016. The overall project will construct one carpool lane in each direction on I-5 from Loma Santa Fe and Solana Beach to State Route 7 Gate. as well as coordinate construction of double tracking along the rail corridor. Major construction work began on the South Bay Rapid Transit project. When complete, the project will have 12 stations along a 26-mile long corridor from the Otay Mesa border area to downtown San Diego. In October 2015, construction began on 3 freeway connectors linking SR 905, SR 11, and northbound SR 125. We completed construction of approximately 5 miles of low sand double track in Sereno Valley and Camp Pendleton. We also had the construction of the SR 15 commuter bikeway project, which began early this calendar year. The project will provide a direct bike route connecting the communities in the Mid-City area with Mission Valley. And we began construction of a mile-long segment of the Inland Rail Trail in the city of San Marcos, which is expected to be completed sometime this fall. So for our contingency balance, we have healthy contingency reserves in the OWP currently at $11.7 million, which represents 27% of the OWP budget compared to the required minimum of 10%. For regional operations, we have several components in the contingency reserve funding, totaling $13.5 million, which is 24% of that combined budget. And the capital program has a project contingency reserve of $194 million, which is approximately 8% of Sandag's remaining program expenditures. This concludes my summary of the fiscal year-end 2016 report. Staff is here to help answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? We're all going to have to get used to the acronym MCTC. What it stands for, I think we're going to hear that a lot. They're going to be doing $900+ million for us. Councilman Gordon, you have a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. In addition to that, first off, great report. Thank you very much. On page 5 of the report, in the narrative, you have the mention about being $111 million under budget for capital. Yeah. And I was trying to understand why you give the listed reasons, just knowing the size of the Midcoast project. How do you break down the 111 amongst the projects you have listed there?
Jim, you want to?
Come, you spending your money fast enough?
Nice punt, Tim.
It does mean we're not spending the money as aggressively as we had planned, and we're always trying to set these schedules as aggressively as we can. The major shortfall there is in the underspending of the cash flow had to do with Midcoast, because when these budgets were originally fixed, the goal was to get the Midcoast FFGA in last winter, and then during the mid-year budget adjustment, it was going to be in June, and then we ended up getting it in September.
Yeah.
And so just the delay of all that cash flow work. We also made a strategic decision to not fund or not start all the work on the San Diego River Bridge and on Poinsettia and Elvira Marina, which is a couple $100 million worth of work, in order to compete for cap and trade funds, which we were very successful in getting. So those are probably two of the biggest drivers of why that cash flow is not as certain as it was when we set these budgets about 23 months ago.
So my intuition on the 111 million, really much of that is Midcoast, even though there's other things that are listed. It's all kind of in furtherance of that and the timing of these dollars.
Yes.
Not getting them, it's just the timing of it.
It's not getting them, it's the timing of the cash flows, and the cash flows are tied to the schedule.
Thank you, sir. And then the last question I had, Mr. Chairman, is I think when I first got here, we just acquired 125, and that was a big deal, and there's a lot of interest on the board part. Now it's kind of this just one little paragraph that's in here, and I assume that's because it's kind of running like a clock at this point, and obviously the revenues are higher. I don't know that was initially the case, but now it's running fairly well. Is that kind of what I'm supposed to take away from the report?
Systems for the toll.
Well, there's that, yeah. But from a business enterprise standpoint, there was.
To give you a little bit of perspective, when we bought the road, it was carrying around 20,000 trips a day, plus or minus, on good days maybe up to 25. Today, by our best days, we're at about 55,000 trips a day. And so the board's decision to reduce the toll, we call remind the committee that the board decided to reduce the tolls by about 42%. Back shortly after we bought it. And that decision, I think, has proven to be a good decision in terms of providing more mobility choices in South Bay so that the traffic numbers are up on the route. One of the needs we had, we've been building a sinking fund because at some point the road will need to be expanded beyond the 2 lanes in each direction. So there's revenues that are going into a fund to do that. And then the other thing that we called the committee that when we bought it, the tolling system was something that needed to be updated, and that's an expensive piece that we're working on to try to bring and modernize that tolling piece. But the Councilmember Gloria, overall, I think that the roads perform as expected. Revenues are more than covering the gap. We hope to come back to the board through the transportation committee here in the near future. Because you may recall again, because of the federal piece of TRIPIA, that debt escalates over time. And so with historically low interest rates today, we think that there's an opportunity to come back and probably refinance that debt at much lower interest rates, thereby having a more level debt service like we do on the AdvanceNet program, thereby providing the board a ton of more flexibility in terms of how we pay the debt. But remember, it's a marathon, not just a sprint. But in the early years, the roads performing as expected, maybe a little better than expected. And the traffic numbers are up. We're on some days up to 55,000 trips.
Like I said, I just remember it being a hot topic of conversation. It's kind of, gone back into the, but it's all for good reason. It's that we're happy with the operation of it. The tolls are still at the right level. The reserves are performing.
Anticipated. I think the only thing Gary left out is in our fund that we have to create is probably looking at, it's an asphalt road. And it's,
so
the lifespan isn't going to be that great soon. I think there's some who have anticipated, well, the tolls are going to automatically go away here in the future. And I don't think that that's going to happen.
But we're working with Caltrans to come back and, it is one of the different features of that road compared to other roads in our urban area. That one was designed and built with asphalt pavement versus most of the rest of our urban areas in concrete pavement. So the lifespan of an asphalt pavement is just not going to be as long as a concrete pavement. So we have been working with Caltrans on rehabilitation projects to bring that back, and we'll have to pave it more.
So if you refinance the debt, the savings will remain in the
Try to stay in that quarter.
125.
Yeah. And I think, Mayor, the idea of the refinancing that we're working with some of our financial managers is to actually end up with level debt service, because right now we're making that and we're adding money to it, but because of the way the federal piece escalates, our debt demand goes up. So that means that we either gotta have more traffic using it in order to make that debt, or if we don't, then we're faced with the prospect of having to possibly raise tolls to raise more revenue. And so, given the very historic low interest rates, we'd like to come back to the transportation committee and the board and take advantage of that and put the route and the region in a way better position.
And when do you think that might happen?
Probably after the first of the year. Because we're, TIFIA is one of the key players, and so right now we're working with TIFIA on the Mid-Coast piece, and we'd like to. That's the reason for maybe the board meeting or first board meeting in December. We'd like to get through that one as we're talking to TIFIA and come back right after that.
Okay, good question. All's well down South Bay.
Good to hear.
Okay. Anything else? Tim, thank you. That's our last item. No public comments. Upcoming meeting, we mentioned December 2nd. Hold it on your calendars for the time being, as that we suggested. And with that, we declare the meeting adjourned.